Hi, everybody. This is Kara Thrasher Livingston with Senior and Disability Services, and you're in the right place if you're looking for our training for our long-term care staff who will be provisioned into the Harmony system, either as part of the pilot project or in anticipation of using the Harmony system to enter client data when your agency is fully provisioned. So I do have 4 learners with me here today. Um, I will just read out the names, and if I'll call attention to a couple of the different features of the webinar system so that you can communicate with me here in our virtual setting. Um, I have Betty Carew, Hazel Early, Jonna Hancock, and Trisha Johnson with me here today. Um, you have your webinar screen, which you can see just kind of like a big blank looking screen, sort of. I'm putting my spotlight on it here, and that's your webinar screen. You don't want to get rid of that. That's where you're going to view our webinar. You also have a control bar, which is the webinar itself, controls for that, which has a little glyph or icon of a little hand. You can click on that to raise your hand. You also have an area to text in your questions and comments. If you look for a little red or orange square with an arrow in it, a white arrow, if you click on that, it'll open up a question area. So you can feel free to write in your questions there. As we go along, that's how you're going to want to interact with me here. We keep the audio nice and clean by having all of our attendees join in a muted status, which doesn't just means that you can't share by audio, but you will be able to share by text. So if you could go ahead and locate that little icon that opens up the text area, and just go ahead and practice that. Just write hello or whatever you like in that area, just so I know that you can tell where to share your thoughts in writing, if you will, by text. I don't see that anybody is joining us over the phone. We're all just listening to a computer today, or a tablet perhaps, or even a cell phone. You should be able to, if it's a smartphone, you should be able to find a way to chat with us as well. No worries. Okay, and you've done something here that I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask if there's anyone else attending with you who's not literally signed in by an email address like you are. And so Hazel, you're writing that Sharon Woodward and Melissa Elmore are with you. So I got you. Okay, I got them as attending as well. If there's anybody else out there who's attending along with you, unless they're signed in to me directly by their email address, I'm not going to know that they're there unless you tell me. And for this group, just because everyone's time is important, your time is important, you're going to be able to sign in other people who are attending with you, but I don't see them on here by email, if you will. All right, so looking good. I don't know that this will take an entire 2 hours. I'd like it to take an hour. I just wanted to call attention to a couple things here and let you know that this is a training that is an entry-level training for everyone who will use the system, the Harmony system. And the Harmony system is just the state of Alaska's data collection and client filing system, that where we invite providers in to enter data and interact with us about particular client files. It is not a system that is replacing any that you already have on hand for your data collection that you're required to do by your licensing body, your governing body, or any other regs that you work under. This is just to enter and receive client applications and approvals or denials of services that you are requesting on behalf of that person. Okay, so we're not going to talk a whole lot about the exact practice of how to use the system today, because like I said, it is an introductory demonstration, if you will, of the system and the requirements to enter it. And it's a minimum training. So that just means it's very minimal. You'll be having the opportunity to have more training on how to actually enter requests for applications for services, how to enter information so that we can give you access to client files and things like that. I'll be able to show a few of those things here, some of the basics, but you will have more specific training as to what you are going to be doing once you're in it. We're just going to teach you how to get in it and how it behaves, kind of. Okay, so for this group is you here, hospital discharge, nursing home staff who apply for general relief or facilitate long-term care authorization. Um, your basics here, you can access this from our main website anytime. Senior and Disability Services, which you can search right from the State of Alaska page. Just put in stateofalaska.gov or alaska.gov. You can put in Senior and Disability Services and search, and you can find our main web page. On our main web page, we do have a Harmony dedicated page, which is right here under Of Interest Harmony. Okay, and so it kind of gives you an introduction here. We are going to, if you want to throw it way back into getting a computer ready for Harmony, that's okay. For this provider group, we're just assuming that, you know, your professional organization has those, that awareness, okay? So how to obtain access to Harmony. Let's talk about that first off. How to obtain access to Harmony. Now, as I've described it, you can understand that there's a lot of private information inside Harmony. It is our database that tracks all of our clients, people who are applying, people who are in the process of applying, people who get services that are not the ones that you provide, you know, all the different services that SDS does and the ones that you provide. So in order to become a worker within the system, your entity, your office, your agency needs to have two documents in place. We need to have, first of all, an access coordination agreement for a person who works at your office, who is usually the supervisor of the programs, long-term care. That person is usually the access coordinator. And the access coordinator is somebody who understands and fulfills all of the requirements that you see here. And you can certainly download these documents at your workplace anytime. You will need to fill these out, and you will need to understand what the duties are of an access coordinator. So in other words, when SDS has things to communicate about Harmony to your facility, we want to communicate to one person who is the access coordinator. The access coordinator will also be the person to make sure that you uphold all the requirements of this document at your facility regarding the people who are using Harmony. Okay, so and the clients that we're talking about are your Medicaid clients entering long-term care or continuing long-term care, and our general relief in time, our general relief clients and things like that. We're just kind of focusing on long-term care right now for this pilot part, and then the entry part into Harmony. We'll be working on GR as we go. Okay, so when you're an access coordinator, you're going to have to communicate changes, meaning separations of people working at your facility, because they will not be able to have access to Harmony after they're not working with your facility because it's private information. You also need to disclose changes of the supervisor and or the Harmony Access Coordinator. You also will need to report breaches of security as described here, disclosure of client data. You'll have to report that to our special email address, dsdsharmonyhelp@alaska.gov. If you have a change in administrator or a change in staff, you'll have to report those within 24 hours. You will ensure that individuals from your facility who are going to be using this system have a need to use it. It's not going to be available to just random people for data entry. This is going to be people who have a responsibility around private data. Ensure that your applicants have been approved through the background check program. Ensure that those who are approved and provided access comply with the user agreement, which we'll look at in just a minute. And if there are any changes to the facility's name, your name, any of the other changes, affiliation with that organization, a change of your title, all of those things you're going to report to DSDS Harmony Help at alaska.gov. And the form goes on to describe about the organizational setup and that your signature shows that you have the authority to sign it and that you're accepting these responsibilities. Okay, it's possible that the access coordinator may not also be somebody who accesses the Harmony data system, but nothing about that changes their responsibilities. And then your agency / facility will be either this one or this one, and you will check those and, you know, turn it in. Okay. And when you turn it in is you email it to dsdsharmonyhelp@alaska.gov. Okay, so that is your access coordinator and their responsibilities. The security agreement is for each individual user. I'm just going to open this with Acrobat and make it look a little bit more like I can see it better. Okay, so your user agreement is for the individual user. So as an access coordinator, you will make sure that everyone who uses this has a user agreement in place. You will also turn these in to DSDS Harmony Help at alaska.gov. And this is just assurances around privacy of client information. Okay. People will only access Harmony according to all HIPAA requirements, only those with the need to know to do business for the client. You must protect your user ID and passwords, and we are not going to be in any instance using passwords of others. So if somebody is sharing passwords, that's something that must be reported. If a person who is approved as a Harmony user changes their name, then or affiliation to their organization or job duties, which all affect their need to know, then that needs to be reported to DSDS Harmony Help at alaska.gov. If there's a breach of security, each individual user must also report that within 24 hours to DSDS Harmony Help at alaska.gov. And you fill out the entire form and you would choose as appropriate long-term care facility or hospital discharge. I'm just going to uncheck them because I'm not really filling it out. And type in the name, sign it. Let's talk about MyAlaska in just a second. Okay. Describe job function within the agency. Explain why you need access to the system. Okay, so as you can see, make sure I got all of it. These documents are part of you won't be able to be in the system unless they're filled out and on file. Okay. So one of the interesting things about this system is, I'm just going back to the main website, is that you are going to be entering, in order to have entry to the system. This is our generic training guide for all of our providers. I know it says certified providers. In order to gain entry to the system, we're going to hit the high points of this here. And you can also check it out. You know, when you have questions, this document will always be online. Okay. In order to have entry to it, you need to have your identity verified. And the way that we're doing this is using MyAlaska. And everybody's familiar with MyAlaska because we use it to, among other things, sign up for the PFD. Okay, so that being said, SDS does not want you to use a PFD account. we want you to use, you can establish a new user account with MyAlaska free of charge that's just associated with your role as a provider. Okay, and they've got this job aid at the end called J30 single sign-on. I'm trying to highlight it, right? We'll take a look at that right now. Okay, what I've done is just scrolled to the end of the document. I just didn't want to make us all dizzy looking at it like that. But anyway, at the end of the document, it tells you about requesting Harmony access using the single sign-on. All this means is that you'll establish a MyAlaska account that is associated with the Harmony data system. You'll enter personal information so that the MyAlaska staff can verify your identity. SDS does not see any of your personal information. We are not able to see it. The function of MyAlaska is to offer um, people who do business with the state of Alaska an opportunity to identify themselves uniquely with a username and password, basically, and their identity verified. And the staff with MyAlaska does that. We don't do any of that. As you can see, if you go to myalaska.gov, you can see that there are lots of different entities here who under services for businesses that are requiring folks to establish a single sign-on. Among one of them is the SDS Harmony Data System. So you will find that. You'll select MyAlaska from the portal drop-down list and continue to sign in. You'll log into your MyAlaska account. You will be redirected to the privacy agreement. You'll click it, you'll check it to continue, you'll accept it, and then you self-register for Harmony. And so the Harmony registration page through MyAlaska is your username is going to be defaulted to the email address from MyAlaska. So unless you want to use your own private personal email address, I would say to make a new account for yourself using your work one. First name, last name, middle name, date of birth, optional job title, and your email address. And it gives a little screenshot of that. Phone number, work phone extension, mobile phone, supervisor name, work position. You will enter which one you are. The document here doesn't, there we go, LTC or general relief, okay. Your provider agency contact name, your facility contacts, and then the MyAlaska staff will review it. And then once they review it, they give you access. And so what happens is you will get an access confirmation email. So make note of that email address. It's going to have to be one that you're going to check. You're going to open that email that's called Harmony Self-Registration User Activated. And there's a you can log in here. You will log in by clicking on that. You will log into MyAlaska and there'll be a new tab or a window, and that'll open Harmony to the desktop. And we'll look at that in just a bit. And then at that point, you'll be prompted to change your password, okay? And you can change it to something that you remember and keep a hold of it, keep record of it. Okay, so far so good. Single sign-on, the two agreements. What are your questions about those things at this time? You can see what I'm talking about under the Harmony page. Okay, it says how to obtain access. These are the two agreements. And the document that I'm going over right now is this first one, just says TO1 Introduction to Harmony for Certified Providers. At the end of that one is the J30, what we just looked at, where you can get started. I'm not seeing any questions. I'm okay with that if you are. It's your opportunity. Go ahead and shoot me whatever you think at this time. I'll be quiet for just a second. Okay, so all good. So far, so good. Be sure to write your question to me should you have them. And I just wanted to demonstrate now the basics of Harmony, what it looks like, how it acts a little bit, and we'll go back to our learning document as well. And I'll keep that handy. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out of Harmony so I can show you signing in. Hang on just one second. Our first couple chapters here are about using the login, My Alaska. We kind of went over that already. We can sign in and sign out of Harmony, and then a little bit about the browser setup, a little bit about roles and things like that. Okay, so we're just going to demonstrate for you the very basics of how the system looks and acts. Okay, so once you should know that this is a training page. This is not the official Harmony Live site. It mimics it pretty closely, but do know that there's some stages of development that the system is still in at this time. So you may have a couple other different things that you might see, in your journeys with this. It may not look exactly the same, but it will basically be the same as what you're seeing here. Okay, lacking a few details. Okay. So you'll be given a user ID. For our user IDs inside the training site, it's our email with the state, and I have established a password that I'm going to enter here. It allows you to see it if you hit the little I, and it logs in. And what you're going to see when it logs in is a desktop. Okay, so being as I'm a trainer, my desktop is mostly, it comes up to an SDS staff as the default. Um, you will not see so many roles here. Even before I do that, I should probably call attention to a few different things. Like right up at the top of the screen, this is just the browser itself. You want to be using Internet Explorer. The Harmony system is made to work the best with Internet Explorer right now. Be aware that, a lot of the newer computers kind of default to Microsoft Edge, which is like the next Internet Explorer. As Internet Explorer enters its sunset years, it'll still be available to use. It's still very much available. You do not have to use Internet Explorer for every single internet function or every single state function at all. Even if you end up using other browsers for this, it will still work, but you will not see all the functions. It's really just built to work best with Internet Explorer. So once you're into this website, it's a secure website. So your company, your facility, I know that we do have firewalls, if you will, up against things like pop-ups and, different kinds of viruses and things like that. This is a secure website that you are in through a username and password. So it does not have any of those things. It's free of those things. So you can use Internet Explorer. It's built to function best with that. Okay, so you can just go ahead and go out on the web and download the most current version. Most PCs or desktops, they already have it. You can search for it in there. If you have one that brings you to Microsoft Edge, it's like a newer one, it's a PC, it's newer. You might want to just see if it already has Internet Explorer in it. Usually they do. If not, you can go out to the web and you can get it. Okay, so up at the top, you can see the little E with the little kind of halo around its head there. That's the Internet Explorer, sort of. And a lot of different things I've set up my browser to do and pages and things like that, favorites and tools and things like that. I see a little star, a little home up in the top here, and a little gear. Another thing you need to know about the browser is if I hit the gear, I could also use tools to get to the same place. Okay, so same thing. I want to choose Internet Options. And so you want to make sure and set your Internet Explorer to have general settings. You don't have to change any of these settings. If you need to make this website, make the Harmony site a trusted site, you can do that. You can do that through this, or you can have your IT manager do it. These general settings are good. The one that I want you to know about, though, is this one, the pop-up blocker. We want to make sure that the pop-up blocker is turned off because the website functions in pop-ups. So we want to make sure that we uncheck that box, right? And then we hit apply, okay. So now my pop-up blocker is turned off, and we'll see why that's important in just a minute. So up at the top is all browser stuff. When it comes to this part here where you see this logo, there's one, let me get my little spotlight so I can show you. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 fields kind of stacked. Like this one's real thin, medium size, a little bigger, and then a wide gray area here. That's what your desktop looks like. You can see it says Harmony Data System. You can see the logo. You can see your name. It'll say welcome, and then your name. It'll say My Harmony. It'll say sign out. You don't want to do that. And it'll have your roles. You may have 1, you may have 2, depending on your provider type. Then it has the word go. So that's what you want to do. First off, you want to make sure you're in the right role. And I'm going to turn myself into LTC referral specialist and hit go. And what does the system do? It has a little bit of thinking and processing that it does, and it kind of turns gray like that. And then it refreshes itself, and there you are. Underneath the logo here, up on this side, you will see that there are many different things that occur under the logo. Particularly in this area, you may get sidebars and different kinds of commands that occur in a vertical fashion here, buttons. You will also have other selections for information to be entered where it says file here, but you'll have more words across the top here that are other commands that turn into drop downs. So I want you to be thinking about looking under the logo for your commands as the pages get demonstrated here. And there's no way I can demonstrate every single one of them, but these are just general things to know about how the system behaves. If I go under file right now, I'm just hovering, it turns into a little hand that says print. There's nothing on the screen I want to print yet. Okay, but that's how it would work if there was. Okay. In the middle section here, this thinner one sort of, I have a quick search. This will help me find people that I'm working with in time. You may have, different kinds of information that, hey, I was working on this particular person. I need to search for them by their last name. I may not have anybody in here yet, as being as it's a demonstration site, and that you're a new provider type. So we kind of have to build some cases here for you to see. But as you can see from a previous demo, I had a consumer named BB8, and 8 was their last name, and I don't see them in there. So I think that I had to start over. My training site has been refreshed and I just don't have that person in here. None of the info that you see in here, by the way, is real. It's all just demonstration. Okay. You can use the drop downs to search, and their last name, date of birth, Medicaid ID, case number. Eventually you can search through those things. If you want to make this quick search bar go away, you can just press the little arrow. If you want to make a more detailed search, it does give you an option to add search parameters. So last name begins with, if you remember what it starts with. If you remember part of the name, you can say contains. You could search by does not contain, ends with. You can add more parameters by hit the little plus sign, and it'll give you more things to pick. So if I say last name begins with B and say first name begins with E, let's see if it brings me anybody at all. And it may not, because I may not have any individuals in there at this time, and that's okay. You can take away the search parameters by hitting the X, add them by hitting the plus. So that brings me to the third bar here, and that would be not this little skinny one here, this next, medium-sized one. This is where your chapters reside. Okay, so what I want to say is a chapter is these tabs here. These are kind of like chapters in a book where you would open a story. So here's My Harmony. In My Harmony, you would see a list of your consumers. Right now, mine does not have anything except it says alert notes. That is really not, it would have consumers and it would have other kinds of work in progress regarding consumers here, the people that you're working with. Once they've been entered into the system and SDS has responded to your entries, they'll begin to populate here in different kinds of panels. In consumers, you'll see the same thing, but nothing else. Okay, here I have a search, right? I'm not going to search for anybody yet. In inquiry, you'll have you can search for your inquiries. Now, inquiry, it's interesting to start talking about inquiry. I will demonstrate one in just a bit, but we want to talk a little bit about how the site behaves and different kinds of things that you might see. Your inquiry is required in order to get access to somebody you serve, and your person that you would serve would be brand new to you, and they would not you wouldn't be able to see any of their records until you perform an inquiry and are given access to that client. And then under providers, mainly providers right now, the way we describe it in our training is that when we have interactions with a provider, this is where you could look yourself up as a provider and change information or submit requests for changes of information on this tab, and there might be other functions of this tab in time for you. Okay, but My Harmony is always your desktop, and that's where you'll always start. Okay, so I will bring my book into view here. I want to go down to chapter 3. And it does give you a picture of your My Harmony desktop when there are, client records in it and things like that. So once my desktop is not very developed because it's, it's a recently refreshed page and it's a new role. But you will generally see under your My Consumers, this is just telling you, the first, second, My Consumers, you'll generally see ticklers, consumer programs, your program will be LTC. Here they had 2 active consumers, different statuses of your inquiries that you will make. And it tells you a little bit of summary of kind of like what I talked about. On your MyHarmony homepage, you may see ticklers. There's a panel that says ticklers. Those are reminders to complete a task. And I know that the pictures here are involved with care coordinators, but you'll have your own tasks that you will be completing for your clients simply by clicking on the name of the tickler. You can sort them by date and you can work on them, in order that way. And this just summarizes the functionality of the, the first page there, this one here. We just talked about that. Let's see if I can find for you a client file so that I can show you what a client file looks like once you're in the system. Give me 1 second. Okay, because I've had a new site and in fact even a new system here, I don't have any stored ones, but that's okay. I can still show you inquiry. Our book does have a pretty good accurate depiction of a client file. When you get access to a client, they become your client. You will see that it looks very much like this. You'll be in your client's name up at the top. Harmony Data System, it'll have different functions here. And then the client's file just looks like this. They have a demographics tab, programs, notes, forms, plans, providers, authorizations. Appointments is where their assessment might be scheduled. If they were going to have an assessment for an SDS program. Diagnosis, medications, case relations, that's just what a client file looks like. And it gets built over time once the person comes into the program. Some of us have existing clients, so there will be some information about clients in files, but you may be entering information on clients that have some partial info already. And then of course you'll have new people that you'll enter too. And then it just tells you a little bit about how to search. There are 3 types of pages in Harmony: list, detail, and search. You first things first, you have to search and find that client record. List pages look like this. It's a list of information, list of notes. In this case, this illustration, it's just different notes that the person had in their file. And then the detail pages are we'll demonstrate these in an inquiry, are the client's basic demographics and things like that. We'll create one. And the book does go over how to do an advanced search and things like that. And I'm not really going to cover that all the way because, you open the filters and you'll search. This really just comes into play when you have many, many people. And your book does have a pretty good explanation of how to do this search, Boolean search, if you will. Okay. As I stated, some of these tasks are in flux, and things like that, which are changing over time. So my goal here really is to just give us an intro. So I wanted to show you a little bit more about how the system works. I wanted to show you an inquiry. Um, so I'm going to show you my screen. And like I said, we have my Harmony. Consumers would be the consumers that are assigned to me. In case folks were thinking about this, when you complete an inquiry for a person, you will get connected up within SDS's Harmony system. Your individual who's the access coordinator, and if they're a user of the system, or your user through the user agreement, will become what we call workers in the system. And so this means that when we make an inquiry to add a new person to our program, or to just have access to somebody and start their file, then that worker will be assigned to that person. Okay, so how do I inquire, and how do I inquire to have access to a person who's new to me, for example? So I go to my inquiry page and I go up to File, and you see where it says Add Inquiry? We just add inquiry, okay? Inquiry just means like the knock on the front door, where it says, I need to tell you that I need access to a client who's already in the system or coming to me, or just I plain old have somebody who's new to me here today. Okay, we want to enter somebody, um, or I need access to their file. So as you can see, the inquiry is started here. It has a few pages to it, but this is one of the pop-ups that comes up. That's why it's important to have pop-up enabled. It gives it a date and a time. It gives it a label for the provider request. So if this was a brand new person, provider request. If they were coming from another facility or placement, if they were by chance to be served by two facilities, maybe that would be shared agreement. Again, some of these things might change in the details for your role. I just want to show you how an inquiry works. In this they go through this in your book. This access request here is the same as inquiry. Okay, so draft means that you're keeping this in a draft status and you're going to go back and work on it. You don't want SDS to see it yet. When you want us to see it, you change it to pending, but you're not done yet right now as of this point in time. Okay, so I can leave it in draft for now. This is just the first page of what we call an inquiry. Division at this point, we would leave it to IR for information and referral, because of the fact that we are just performing an access request for this person, an inquiry. And in the book, it is actually page 51, and I will show you that the way to use these books, and you'll have different provider manuals available to you and job aids, is to just go step by step. So we've kind of engineered these books as close as we can to the actual steps that you'll encounter. Just know that if things get changed after the fact and there are different processes available, that will have new copies of these materials for you to follow. Okay, so the hope here is that you'll find yourself able to follow it step by step. Okay, so for general processes, this is sort of a picture of the first page. Okay. Okay. So if we wanted to fill one out, you would have procedural steps for your exact role. Okay. here I'm just going to enter something in the description just to show you that it is a text field. You can definitely add as much information here. I think it does take several lines of information here. The program is going to be LTC facility for your purposes. Again, there will be details. I'm just demonstrating your the actual inquiry itself. Okay, so the second section here talks about the agency. In order to give the agency's info, easiest way to do it is to hit the little three dots, and that will bring up a little search that tells your agency. So I want to hit the plus so I can enter what my facility contains. I think that my long-term care facility, my fake one here, contains the name James, and I'm not sure that that's bringing me up anything because it's very generic. So I'm going to say it begins with that. I'm going to try contains again. James Inc., I think. So if I search for myself and I can't find my facility, what has happened behind the scenes here is that all of our certified and or enrolled facilities are in here as a provider. So let's see if I can just use something that's just here for, again, all this information is, scrambled. There might be something that comes up with this word. I thought mine had James Inc. in it, but it's really not, we'll go with this, okay? Again, it's not, none of it is real info. I mean, it uses scrambled info, so sometimes it looks real, but it's not, okay? Let's see. Okay, it fills in the info once I chose it. Okay, so what I want to do here is I just want to go up to File and just save it. Not save and close, just save, because there are more pages to fill out. I didn't tell it yet about the person that I wanted to request info on. Okay, so who is it? After I say, it tells me, okay. I hit okay, and it has more instructions down here. Now you can see where more things have come up under file and tools, okay? I know it says participants, but you just want to work with one name at a time. You don't want to create additional inquiries for people, like if you have 2 people or 3 people, it's just one at a time. Okay, so we go to participants. It's a new person, so we go to add participant. It says person seeking supports. Okay. And I'm just going to use my previous info because it was kind of wiped. BB8. We can hit the little calendar for a date of birth. We can choose any month we want, and we choose the appropriate year and the day. And it will tell us, calculate the age. We choose the primary and secondary language. If we know these things, if we know an interpreter is needed, or we know the this information here, we can put it. If we don't know, then, or the person's declined to say, that's okay too. Okay, so save person seeking supports. And it just says my save was successful. And I can go to save and close person seeking supports. So this will just close that window. Okay, now I have a person right here, a person listed, right? What I want to do now, I don't have inquiry forms right now, but what we do want to do is have some documents be turned in, meaning release of information and verification of diagnosis, um, in order to be able to open up a file for a person, at least release of information. So we do this with notes, and I'm just demonstrating this for notes. Again, you know, your procedural things will be a little bit different. I just want to show you how the system behaves. We're currently updating your procedure book for working with your clients and giving applications for long-term care and things like that. Inquiry comes first, though. So we want to go File, Add a Note. And a note is just a way of saying that we are adding a document, we're uploading a document into a client's file. We're uploading a document for SDS to review. It's still IR, information and referral. They don't really have a program yet. The person should show up right there. Note type. I will choose, I don't, again, you know, your particular procedure will probably be a little bit different. Let's just say that this is, I'm not going to go by your old book. I'm going to say that it's not long-term authorization yet. It is a, let's say, inquiry for, let's say, it's not a plan yet. Let's call it that. Nope. See, as you can see, the types of notes are, let's say consumer documentation. The types of notes are related to the subtype. And this one I will put in release of information. Okay, so consumer documentation, release of information, that means that the person is releasing me to go ahead and view their file. Okay, so ROI, and the note, you can put in text notes. Harmony has interesting, you know, areas for notes. Sometimes notes could be just text here. And some of them can include uploaded documents. If they include an uploaded document, then you'll have to have it signed by the person or their legal rep, for example, in the case of ROI. And you'll have to have it stored in your computer so that you can upload it. Okay, so let's set the note status to pending, because when this is done, you want to have everything set to pending so that SDS can view it. The rest of it looks like this. There's attachments, okay, add attachment. You can browse in your computer for a document, if you will, and we'll find a document here. And I'm just looking for a likely document to add. Let's choose this one. And we'll just say that this was the ROI, okay? And I'm putting in the description and the category. C- is client. So you just go down and look for release of information and upload. If you needed to upload more than one, you could upload and add another, and it would just allow you to do that. You have up to 5 attachments available per note. You may have to, in some cases, make 2 notes if there's lots of medical documentation. You may run out of room. Your attachments can be no more than 20.41 megabytes a piece. So you might have to do another note in some cases if you have a lot of scanned information to put in. But for this demonstration, we do have our attachment uploaded, and you can see it here. The document file name was, of course, it wasn't an ROI. I'm just using this to show you, but it has the file name of the document, ROI, and release of information in the category. In the back of your book, there is a file naming convention, which is described sort of at the end of the book here. So, you may or may not be encouraged to use these for your file names. I don't think I have anything in here yet pertaining exactly to long-term care, but you can kind of see the pattern. If you want to be returning an ROI, the harmony number underscore ROI. So this individual's ROI, I could have scanned it into my computer and renamed it the inquiry ID underscore ROI, or just ROI. So what do I want to do here? I want to save and close the note. And it tells me it was successful. I don't have referrals and inquiry here, but I do want to show you that the subpages are underneath where it says file. Inquiry was the first page. Participant was the second page. Okay, so if I click on this participant, I can show you they have basic demographics. I can add in information. I could add their address here at this point. Add address or close. I'm just going to go ahead and close to show you how that works. Once you have access to their file, you'll see a full client file with the different tabs in it like it has in your book. Okay. So right now I don't have anything for inquiries other than participants and notes. The forms and referrals part is for future program changes. Okay. So I'm going to close. Well, let's just go back to inquiry here, the main inquiry. I don't have to close anything out. I could just, kind of go up and down and try it in different ways there. Try looking at it there. Okay. So how do I submit it? What are 2 things I have to know in order to submit this? So I have to know 2 things. I have to make sure that nothing is left in draft status here, because when it's draft, like it says right here, it is not going to be able to be viewed by SDS. I want to change that to pending. Pending means I'm submitting it pending your review, SDS. So I change it to pending. So all these statuses here, wherever it says status, it has to be pending. Participant, it really doesn't, save and continue. Okay, I didn't allow it to save, so it reminded me. That's okay. All right, that alternate procedure of setting it to pending has triggered what we call the workflow wizard, which is perfectly fine. It's just a little reminder that tells you to save, check in, and close. And it doesn't really, you don't really have to act on it. You can click on it if you want. It's just a pop-up reminder that does that. You may or may not have those in your workflow when you get close to it. But again, it is reminding me that I'm going to save, check in, and close. So I'm going to go back to the main top page, inquiry right there. So I need to make sure that it's set to pending. And my notes, I can go back to the note there. and the status is pending. If it wasn't, I would click on the note and go back and change it. So I'm just making sure the status is pending was just those two things, participants and notes and inquiry. That's set to pending too, right here. So what do I do now? I file, save, check in, and close. Just like my little reminder hat. I just pulled it out of the screen. It says remember, okay? So I go file, save, check in, and close. And it's just like checking it into the library or something like that. So you've created a book and you're checking it into SDS in order for us to review it. So you can check that inquiry and you can say, here's your inquiry, provide a request, pending, that's correct. It's not checked out to anybody yet, but SDS will, you'll see a name there when it gets checked out to somebody, okay? And then if you wanted to check it out and work it again, you can continue to work on that if by chance you had to go back into it anytime, unless you see it, the status say complete. If it's complete here, inquiry decision or checked out to somebody else, if it says complete or approved or something like that, that just means it's not waiting anymore. But you can certainly check it out by using that little arrow, and you could work on it and then check it back in. And as you can see, there it is again. So if you needed to change things, you could do that. You could just work on it, save, check it, and close, and checking it back in. And that's an inquiry. Okay, so if I go back to my Harmony, I'll probably see that I have something new here in my middle list, which is an inquiry. And that says there's one that's pending. I just made that one. Once I gain access to that consumer, they will show up in the consumers tab, and there'll be a new little panel here that says active consumers. Okay, so once they accept BB8 as my client and let me have access to her file, then she'll show up under here. Okay. So my goal today really is just to familiarize you with how it works and how to get entry to it, how to apply through your access coordinator, and to give you a little bit of knowledge about how the screens work, so that you know what a role is and what the main desktop looks like and things like that. Your procedural training will be more close to what exactly you'll do when you're working with your applications and your renewals and the different cycles of the service that you do. Okay, so that will be further training closer to you being actually, you know, either before you're provisioned or maybe after you're provisioned. Okay.